News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
Newstalk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
Yes, there were even protests in Missoula. Good morning, everyone. It's Montana Morning. It's Tuesday, November 25th, 2014. Right now, we do have a little bit of light snow in the area, a little bit of rain mixed. Roads are a little slick this morning, 32 degrees in Missoula right now. Just think of a carbon copy of yesterday's road conditions. That's pretty good description, although not quite as much crunchy ice underneath. Our newscast this morning is sponsored by Kootenai Creek Village, the maintenance-free active adult community in Stevensville. Call 777-5387. Following the announcement that Officer Darren Wilson would not face charges for the fatal shooting of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, a small group of demonstrators gathered in Missoula holding signs outside the Wilma Theater. One protester told our news partners at NBC Montana they wanted, quote, to stand in solidarity against the injustices with the verdict that came out in Ferguson to prevent that police officer from having charges brought up on him, end quote. Riots and looting, of course, as we just heard, were the scene in Ferguson as demonstrators protested the grand jury's decision to not indict Wilson for Brown's shooting death. Businesses were set on fire last night, as were various buildings, and a police car. Gunshots were also heard in the streets. Personnel with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks combed the area surrounding Hawthorne School yesterday after someone reported seeing a mountain lion in the area, but they found no sign of the predator. Bear and mountain lion management specialist Jamie Jonkel says a large percentage of alleged mountain lion sightings turn out to be incorrect.
I hate to say this, but about 80% of our calls come back as just house cats. And then we get people, showing us the tracks where the lion walked by and their dog tracks. We've even had people point, lions out that are deer.
Jonkel says there's a website that can best communicate the activities and interplay between wildlife and humans in Missoula.
We have a great website called MissoulaBears.org. And on that website, you can find out the latest information on where folks are seeing lions, where lion activity is occurring.
And Jonkel again emphasized the use of that website, MissoulaBears.org, as the best way to report a mountain lion or bear sighting for the fastest response from the proper authorities. A 36-year-old Bozeman woman has been sentenced to 20 years under the supervision of the Department of Corrections, with 15 suspended for falling asleep drunk at a Billings hotel and smothering her infant son to death. The Billings Gazette reports Tiffany Michelle Hosner was sentenced for negligent homicide late last week, the day her son would have turned 3 years old. Tribal law enforcement officers arrested a state senator and Blackfeet leader for driving under the influence, a charge he says has since been dropped and was politically motivated. Outgoing Senator Shannon Auger told the Great Falls Tribune yesterday he was pulled over late last week and then charged with misdemeanor DUI, eluding a police officer, and speeding. He says all those charges were dismissed in Blackfeet Tribal Court on Monday. Police Chief Joshua Blackweasel would only confirm that Auger had been arrested on the reservation. Auger says his arrest was, quote, pure harassment, end quote, noting that Blackweasel dislikes him because he wouldn't recognize his appointment as police chief. In May of 2013, Glacier County deputies stopped Auger west of Cutbank. The senator pleaded guilty to DUI, reckless driving, and obstructing a police officer in that occasion. Back in September, the Ravalli County Republican Central Committee filed a lawsuit in U.S. District Court in hopes of changing the party's primary system from open to closed. Four other county central committees have since joined the lawsuit, but the state Republican Party has yet to weigh in. Montana Republican Party Chairman Will Dayshaw explains what would change if a closed primary system was put in place.
It would mean if you want to vote and vote as a Republican, you have to register as a Republican. Depending on how the lawsuit is settled out, should it go that far, I don't know if the Democrats have to or not. The suit is all about making sure that only Republicans can vote in the primary in a selection of Republican candidates to move on toward the general.
Now that the elections are over, Montana, Dayshaw says, has set a date for the party leadership to make a decision on the matter.
The state party has not spoken out, much in difference to what people have said. The party hasn't said one thing one way or the other. I have called for a state central committee meeting on the 10th of January in Helena, where the grassroots people that really control the party will make the decision one way or the other whether the state party gets involved in the lawsuit or not.
The court could very well side with the Ravalli County Republicans. A similar decision was reached in Idaho, which held its first closed primary races in 2012. Montana tax authorities will appear before the state Supreme Court today to argue a Wyoming mining company owes $3.4 million for selling coal to an affiliate at less than market value. State officials say Cloud Peak Energy of Gillette, Wyoming, undervalued coal it sold between 2005 and 2007 and paid too little in taxes as a result. Yesterday, Missoula Mayor John Engen announced December 7th would be known as Human Trafficking Awareness Day. Engen made the pronouncement at the request of House District 94 Representative Kimberly Dudick, who says she's working with the Attorney General's office on that issue.
I've been working with them for the next legislative session on a bill dealing with human trafficking, and I'm looking forward to working with them come January, but they are also helping just with the run to raise awareness of it. It's a growing issue in Montana, and we're just concerned about the victims of the crimes and how we can help them and stop this problem.
The bill's still in flux, but Dudick says there's one thing she definitely wants to see in the final version.
If a person is convicted of that crime, I want to see them have to register as a sex offender, such as somebody would have to do if they were convicted of raping somebody else. And in Montana law right now, that's not required, although in surrounding states it is, such as Washington. It lets people know what the person has done and puts people on guard and raises their awareness that this person is dangerous and why.
Montana Attorney General Tim Fox will be in Missoula December 7th to speak about human trafficking. Thanksgiving just a few days away, and although there's some snow in the weather forecast, petroleum analyst Patrick Dehan says the forecast for gas prices is good.
Prices a little bit lower here in the last week, with prices declining about 5 cents a gallon to $2.95 on average across Montana. It's down from last week when prices averaged $3. Likely most areas will continue to see a gentle decline, perhaps more so in Montana than surrounding states.
Prices are low in states east of Montana as well, but prices rise for those driving west.
If you're traveling through South Dakota, that is one of the cheapest neighbors. As you go west, prices do tend to be a bit more. Washington State along the west coast average about $3.09 a gallon. Quite a bit cheaper, though, in eastern Washington. Prices in the 270s in some areas, for example, Spokane's average.
Right now, prices in Montana about a dime cheaper than they were at this time last year. Newstalk time is 6:10.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Look for a mix of rain and snow today in the Missoula Valley with our high temperatures warming into the mid to upper 30s. Winds will stay out of the west-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Snow likely again this evening. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13, your first alert station.